gonna start it. I'm just gonna
We'll
start it.
definitely get into those weeds later.
Yeah, I'm just gonna start it. We can edit out whatever. I just want to have it rolling.
Okay, no worries.
Unless
But
she
we're
doesn't
just
want to
gonna
be
take it
recorded.
kind of. No. We're definitely all in here. I just was giving you
Oh,
a little preamble here.
yeah.
But Miss,
She's a
I
New Orleans
will.
native, right?
Yes, she is. As I understand it, from New Orleans proper. I'm from West Metairie or West Central New Orleans, which is called Metairie.
Yeah, but that still
Let me.
counts.
I'm going to share this ID number with her real quick.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's kind of like okay, so it's like kind of like the people who say, "Oh, yeah, I'm from New York City."
Right.
Are they from Queens?
Correct. She's.
Are
I
they
mean,
from
I
Brooklyn?
tell people.
Are they from
Right.
Westchester?
I say I'm from New Orleans because most people haven't heard of Metairie. They're like, Metairie, what's that?
Yeah.
Uh, but I'm sure she can fill you in more detail on that. But pretty much just an initial foray for Miss Campbell. And as someone who is now enmeshed with us as an organization, and not only wants to participate in what we're doing on a corporate level, but also is a dear friend of mine for the last half decade of we were both working for Pilot,
Oh, wow.
writing on a contract for Pilot. We were adjusting all state wind and hail claims,
Hmm,
and she's someone of high integrity that
beautiful.
it can be a rough field at times, but
Yeah.
she's got a lot of integrity and is one of the most thorough analytical people I've ever met. And
That's what I love.
is somebody that, regardless of which direction she goes in, whether it's to run for office or remain in private enterprise, um, I'm confident she's going to do well whatsoever. I'm confirming for her the ID number,
Yep,
and
950
she should be with us momentarily. Miss
5887
Mariel Campbell of
59. How do you
New
say her name?
Orleans,
Marianne?
Louisiana. Mariel, Mariel.
Okay. So I want to make sure if I don't
Yeah,
spoof it.
yeah, it's
No, I'm not.
Mariel.
Marielle. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
but from New Orleans, Louisiana.
uh,
It's one of my
it's Louisiana.
Louisiana. I mean, I love New Orleans and I love Louisiana, but um, it's an interesting place for sure.
It's kind of like, as you know, upstate New York, it's kind of an interesting, well, Dutchess County, upstate New York, it's an interesting, rap itself. Uh,
Right.
as is like, Poughkeepsie
Well,
is becoming a much more nicer place than it used to be 10, 15 years ago. A little
right.
sketchy, a little bit of a sketchy
And
place.
you know, that's one of the things too about adjusting that it's kind of taken us both all over the country. Yeah, it's interesting. I know, I lived in Maryland for 2 years when I was stationed in the Navy. That was my first duty station was in Bethesda at the President's Hospital. And then I lived in 2020. I spent the better part of the lockdown in West Virginia, which
Oh,
was
wow.
which was interesting. Now the people there were very gracious and really cool to me, but a lot of them were shocked. They're like, "Man, we're trying to move out of here and move to New Orleans, and you moved in."
It's like, wait, you came
But
from New Orleans? You're over here
you
now?
know, yeah, they were just blown away because I'm not sure why, but there was a lot of kind of self-loathing amongst the people from West Virginia that I lived with, and I didn't see the entire state, but Martinsburg. I'm sure you're aware of this. Martinsburg is the northernmost tip of the DC metropolitan area.
Oh, like kind of that area.
And I think we've got movement. We do.
All right.
It
Hi,
is. Miss Mariel Campbell.
how are you?
Good. How are you? Thank you so much for joining us. This is my comrade at arms without arms, Mr. Edmund Matuk.
Or Crazy Ed
Oh,
Local in the
hi, nice to
family.
meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I'm very happy to meet you.
Yeah, I'm actually glad to be here too, and I've heard a lot of great things, so I'm glad to finally meet you as well.
Yeah, welcome to
Eddie,
the modcast, as I like to call it.
see, I see what you did there. He puts up with me. Eddie, this is kind of like it's kind of like a sympathy date. You're like, okay, fine. He's dreamy enough. I'll take him out once or twice. Eddie puts up with me and is very gracious counterpart for me. But I was just bragging on you. A little bit for everyone else. I've bragged on you a lot to Eddie, but for everyone in our audience, some of you are watching, some of you are listening. But Ms. Mariel Campbell is a dear friend of mine from the last half decade, and in a field that can attract all kinds of folks, writing wind and hail claims together under contract for Allstate. One of the not only brightest and deepest analytical minds I know, but one of the finest people I've met. A resplendent character, and it's a unique honor and a distinct privilege to have you with us, Ms. Campbell. And I said you were from New Orleans, but please give us a little bit of background about you, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So I am originally from New Orleans, I guess you could say. Grew up there. Absolutely love the city. Currently, I've moved to Florida for just a short while, but New Orleans will always be near and dear to my heart. Um, I guess you could say, though, that I have also traveled the country, especially the last couple of years. And I have been able to meet a lot of great people in my time, not only helping, I guess you could say, with them in their greatest time of need, but also getting to know this great country of ours. And I've really enjoyed the experience. So while New Orleans might be my home, I've kind of made the country my home in a lot of ways.
It's awesome.
Beautiful.
Eddie, I gotta ask you, Muriel, have you spent any time? Have you been to the great upstate of New York?
No, I've not been to upstate New York yet. I did get to briefly go to New York City for a little bit. But it is definitely someplace that I've been wanting to go. I heard it's absolutely beautiful.
It is.
Yeah,
It is. Well, Mr. Matuk lives in the Poughkeepsie area,
yep.
Okay.
I live in the
and
beautiful
Yep.
Hudson Valley, we'll call it.
yeah. So
Okay.
Eddie, I kind of butchered it in describing it to Ms. Campbell, and I'm not going to do it justice for our audience either. But Eddie, elaborate if you don't mind a little bit on what you do. Vassar and
So, kind of unlike for what I do right now, I run the audiovisual department at Vassar College. So I
Okay.
host a slew of events, webcasting, live stream. We do all kinds of really big lectures and stuff like that, which has been a really great experience as I grew up here. So like it's a full
Okay.
circle experience for me. Prior to that, I toured with bands for many years, recorded, did all kinds of installations for corporate stuff, and I kind of found myself back at Vassar, and it gives me the freedom
Yeah.
to be able to do all this stuff and be able to give people a voice too, which is great, which I absolutely love doing.
Yeah. It seems like you came full circle.
Yeah, definitely. And
he did.
Yeah.
Talk about you leaving out some of your magnificence here, Eddie. What about NBC? Like, tell her more about you're a skilled man.
well, yeah, but I'm trying to think of the best way to
It's
say it.
difficult to talk about yourself. I get it.
Well, I mean, I'm a multifaceted musician. I've been playing guitar and singing and drums for over 20 years now.
Mhm.
I also do a little bit of race car driving, which is always a little bit of fun too. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm a big time chef, cook, uh, barbecue, smoke master. I feel in my later life, I'm gonna move down south and open up my own
Yeah.
barbecue place someday. We'll see. We'll never know, but it's always exciting.
Yeah.
Um,
We'll review your application. You know,
Great food is definitely something I
oh
can
yeah.
appreciate here in New Orleans. Trust me.
Eddie, we can't just let any Yankee slither into the South now. So we'll have to discuss this. No, I kid. I love you. And no, thank you. I'm not trying to put you on the spot and get all your gory details out there because it's not a fun game to play. Y'all could turn that around on me and we'll be like, whoa. Uh,
Yeah, really, right?
right. They're like, all right, Mr. Sinister, let's talk. No, so we first of all, obviously, we wanted to have you on Mariel as to have an outside perspective on what we do. I know you've been kind enough to give us a listen quite a few times, and and we agreed that there's enough debate bros podcasts out there. You see these headlines, so and so slams so and so, and it's like, okay, but
Right.
it's like what Keith Richards said about rap. Lots and lots of words, very little said.
Right.
And that's not an aside about rap. If you like rap, great. But you see my point that there's a
Right.
lot of argumentation. There's plenty of places for people to go if they want to hear an abortion made out of discourse. We're not going to do that. Uh, Eddie and I have disagreed on several occasions. He's a Zen Buddhist. I'm a Roman Catholic. So you can do the math. Um,
Right.
but we believe in having a conversation and advancing the ball downfield for a number of reasons, but we've said it and we mean it that we would love to have Representative Alessandria Ocasio-Cortez on. We would love to have former Senator Mitt Romney. I'm just throwing names out there, and that, like Eddie said last week, as cheesy as it might sound, this actually is a safe place for discussion and to
Mhm.
venture your beliefs. We have, I must say it, not that you're at risk of violating either, but we have two caveats to that, two rules. Number one, we do not do ad hominem attacks, nothing personal.
Right.
And number two, we do not, outside of the discussion of foreign policy, we do not permit the discussion of violence. We don't facilitate any of that. And fortunately for us, we're not going to have that problem because, again, I come back to Mariel, you're one of the brightest minds I've had the privilege to have worked with. And
Same.
Eddie, I think I told you this, but for a brief while last year, well, Miss Mariel was working outside claims for all state adjusting. What was that? Helene Mariel? What was the?
Yes,
Okay.
it was. It was for Hurricane Helene.
So I was for about somewhere between 7 to 10 weeks, maybe. I was her field support, so I got to review her estimates just to make sure we were all in compliance without getting deep in the weeds. So when I tell you, and I'm not an economist yet, but that's my education, obviously.
Mhm.
No piece of paper yet, but my point in saying that is you can't BS your way through some of those classes. And so when I say she's one of the deepest minds and thinkers that I know, I mean that. And so Eddie and I find ourselves troubled, Mariel, by the discourse in this country. And it's kind of like we discussed. The book of Proverbs says, you can prove that you are right, but it is the Lord convinced. And I'm not preaching at anybody, whoever anybody's higher power is, fine. But for the sake of this conversation, does it trouble you and the nature of discourse? And I mean, I'm sure it does to a degree, but do you think that things are worse now than when you and I were in high school around? I know we're years apart, but like, okay, so I graduated in '02. You graduated like around 2011, 2012, I'm assuming.
Correct.
So do you think it's actually worse? Or do you think that social media has just blown it up and magnified it?
To be quite honest, I think social media has definitely blown it up and magnified it. But I also think it has also given people a voice that might not have ever had one. So I think that is the difference. Additionally, that also allows people to have a voice and bring matters to the table that maybe they would not have been able to discuss previously before those types of platforms were more utilized in that manner. So I think it's actually pretty multifaceted. I also do believe, though, that there are different instances that we're now having to face. There's been way more natural catastrophes or disasters, even since 2011, and they become more and more frequent, sadly, every year. This
Let
is
me stop
really
you
the
there.
first time in a while. Mhm.
Just caveat to that. I don't mean to cut you off, but you hit on something just then. With regard to our
Yeah.
leaders, do you think via social media, and Eddie, feel free to kind of augment my question here. I know you know what I'm getting at. Do you think our leaders are effectively, has social media helped them, or is it more of a, oh man, because we've had these town halls, right? That suddenly candidates
Right.
stop even having because they just face vitriol and just nonsense at their own home. Do you think social media can kind of be tweaked and utilized by our leaders, or is it something that you would encourage them to, hey, let your secretary handle that, but you don't need to RFK this and get out there amongst the folks?
That's a solid question. Yeah.
I mean, to be quite honest with you, I do think that people should be getting out there. They need to hear their representative's voice and not somebody else speaking for them.
Mm.
I think it's very important that they understand and speak for themselves as well. I've never been really one to believe in hiding behind anyone. So, if you are an elected official, then you should be able to speak to your public and know what it is you need to say and be prepared to say it.
So I
Mm.
appreciate that. It's of course insightful. Back to you for a second, Mr. Matuk. Being up in New York, it's not even a binary option, really. It's extremely difficult for someone that's not in the Democratic Party to get elected, right? And
Correct. Yeah.
gerrymandering is making things even worse, where I mean, the districts, you look at some of these maps, it's absurd.
It is.
Uh,
It is.
what what are your thoughts? And let's say a Mariel Campbell, let's say someone that if you could find another to pose as Miss Smith here, but whomever, do you think that she or the proverbial Miss Smith, would they have to run as an independent in New York if they weren't a Democrat? I mean, is there a way in here? Because Miss Campbell believes in taking her case straight to the people. She's not going to tell you this, but after Helene, lo and behold, she shows up. She can't get answers from the congressperson up there, so she just hauls butt up there.
Yeah.
And is like foot trafficking out, pounding the pavement and talking to people, not getting paid for this, I might add. Just kind of a side, hey, trying to help out gig, wandering around North Carolina to help folks. But it bothers people because nobody can be that sincere, right? So
Totally.
would she have to run as something else, Eddie, in a place like New York?
I think in New York, yeah, probably either what they would consider like the working class, which could be independent, family oriented kind of stuff, community oriented, is really going to be the biggest thing right now, is what I'm seeing, especially up here in this area of New York. There was a
Okay.
large, I guess, Democratic wave that happened over this previous election period, which is great. Um, but yeah, it seems like there's a lot of contrast between Democratic, Republican. I feel like if someone's finding themselves more of an independent, they may speak to a little bit more people, perhaps. But then also that's like a part of our what we're doing too with our podcast is we're kind of giving that platform
Right.
to a lot of people to have that voice, especially in areas where
Exactly.
their voice may not be very prevalent.
Right.
And I think that's a big key factor that we're
Or respect it.
contributing to, is we're trying to help a lot
Mhm.
more people find their voice and their representation too.
Right.
So
And I
to
think that's actually very, very great. There's not enough of that, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, there's a lot of discourse going on, and there's so many like Jack said, there's so many like debate kind of podcasts and things. It's where we're
Right.
kind of leaving it more of like a more open-minded voice where you can come and talk about the things that you want to help do with other people, or for for your party or for the community. It's really about that for the most part,
Yeah.
which
well,
I'm a big believer in
Miss
community stuff, especially with like
Yes.
today being Veterans Day and supporting all of our
Yes.
veterans and everything, which is really important to me. So
And it really needs to all come back to the community, to be quite honest with you. I don't, again, I'm just going to keep saying that there's definitely not enough of that. There's enough discourse, as you said, there's enough debate, there's enough negativity. We really need to bring it back to the community and what the communities need, and to give them a voice, because it's them at the end of the day that can tell you what they need, not other people guessing for them.
right, right, exactly. And I mean, I'll quote the famous John Lennon, as he said, like the people are the government, and that's what
Yes.
we really have to bring that back. We have to bring that back to we have to bring that back together.
Yes, we do. Yes. Completely agree.
well said. And kind of a follow on to that, there's some obviously the parties unfortunately, because of the way funding works, Citizens United, there's no runoff for the presidency, which is kind of kneecaps any third party that would like to make that foray. But so with that in mind, we'll think of it as the duopoly it is for now, just for the sake of this. Ceteris paribus, all things being equal. There's some issues that old momentum is kind of in the middle of the field. Like, for instance, the threat or promise, whichever way you want to see it, of President Trump to deschedule or reschedule cannabis. That typically is kind of a left-leaning Democratic stock issue in terms of that duopoly. We're leaving the libertarians out. Uh, he's kind of brought that into the center as, unions, their once solid support for Democrats has crumbled and kind of wandered over. So there's my point in saying that is there's a number of issues that have kind of lingered in the middle of the field, and Eddie's kind of answered this with regard to New York, but some of these issues, Mariel, you feel like with regard to, I mean, not specifically cannabis, but in something as simple as eliminating some of the bureaucracy and not talking about it, being about it, making the assistance happen for people that they can see, because they know whether their communities are getting paid or not.
Right.
You can lie all day long or not. I'm not accusing anybody of lying up there. I'm just saying it's if the shoe fits. But people know whether or not they've still got a bridge out a year and a half later.
Exactly.
People know if there's no food at the food pantry for poor folks. So with that, is it something that you feel like, are we so just hopelessly torn apart because of partisanship, or is there a way? Is there a way that leaders, it's got to be plural, but can make a dent here and say, folks, cut out all the noise for a second. Here's what's really happening. Do you feel like that can happen?
To be quite honest with you, basic human needs should not be politicized. So, emergency response, disaster out, infrastructure out due to a disaster, I should say. Anything like that should not even be a political debate. It should not be anything about a duopoly. It's being brought to the center because it is an issue that just needs to be discussed. It needs to be less about whose team you're on and more about the people at the end of the day. And
You're
until
here.
those issues are taken in such a manner, then we're not going to get anything solved.
I like that.
You're here.
I like that a lot.
I do. So with regard, because anytime you talk about the royal, you talk about, cutting through red tape, cutting through bureaucracy. At the end of the day, it's like I've said this before on this podcast. When I asked my old man in high school, it's like, well, why don't they just cut the spending, Dad? Just balance the damn budget. And he said, son, you've got to keep in mind, anytime you talk about seriously cutting the budget, you're talking about cutting jobs.
Mm.
So do you feel like, because I know you want to cut red tape, you want to make this disaster response happen quicker. Do you feel like that's a way you can do that and simply redirect personnel? Or is somebody going to lose here?
Well, I'm not saying that somebody is going to lose. I think we need to reframe it in more of the mindset of what is going to be best for the people at large, what is going to be best for everyone. And I know that is a difficult thing to pose, but until you actually get down to the nitty gritty of what is needed and what actually needs to be in place versus what is already there, then how can you actually effectively balance that out? So while, yes, there might be some things that need to be trimmed, I also do believe that until a full assessment is completely done and then actually shown to the people that the full assessment has actually been done and it is thoroughly explained to everybody and documented as to such, you know how I am about my documentation, and that nobody is just over there checking boxes willy-nilly, and they actually do their due diligence, then we're not going to know what that is. How are you going to say that
That's fair.
things have to be cut? People are losing their livelihoods and their jobs until we actually know a full, thorough investigation has been done. And I don't mean just because somebody has gotten on TV and said so.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Where's the proof? Where's the evidence? Where's the
that's a
documentation?
that's a fair answer because,
Mhm.
and it's easy for me to Monday morning quarterback and sit here and say, well, what they should have done was, but it certainly feels
Right.
like some of what Doge did was just, as Mr. Musk himself said, put US aid into the wood chipper. And it's like, don't you think we need a scalpel here instead of a chainsaw?
Right.
I
Definitely.
I
mean,
completely agree.
I mean, Eddie, you were talking about this before, but kind of bring us up to speed. You were talking about some of the effects of the shutdown and some of the funding issues up at Vassar and some of the grants, you know?
So, as it was kind of a big issue, so there was a big issue with the endowments, and they were going to be taxed.
Right.
Vassar has like a $50 billion endowment. Harvard, a couple of the other more Ivy League schools have something even more astronomical. Um, the president of the college, Betsy Bradley, she actually went down to DC, and she had went in front of Congress, and she met tons of people, and she had basically ensured that Vassar's not going to lose any of that endowment money, which is pretty incredible because they give students about $60,000 in federal aid a year. It's about 80,000.
Wow.
So you all made it unscathed?
We made it
Wow.
unscathed, which is quite amazing. And for being such a small liberal arts school, the power and the draw that was able
Mhm.
to happen that she had done, because she goes all over the world and she gives speeches and stuff like that. Fantastic public speaker and representative for the college and liberal arts itself, which is pretty amazing.
That's the president. What's her name again?
Her name's Betsy Bradley. She's been the president for about
Okay.
8 or 9 years now. Maybe less. Maybe less. I don't. She
That's
started when
impressive,
I
though.
started, but it's quite impressive. And yeah, we left it unscathed, which is pretty amazing. Which technically they do get federal
Wow.
funding, even though it is a private institution. Which is, I don't know how that works. I stay out of that because I don't really know the politics between that. But um, I just know that everyone here has been there's been great protection of our jobs. I am in a union which is also protected, so that's really great, and I think that we have a lot of positivity moving forward even in the kind of unknown, which is hard to say for a lot of other people, I feel like.
Right. Okay.
But
No,
yeah, we
I,
made it pretty well through that, so I'm really excited for what's to come. um,
that's fascinating to me. I mean, a lot of, aside from, let's be clear here, quick caveat to this is a lot of the American people were struggling amidst this.
mm,
Fortunately, it was only a handful of times, but to me, one day of aid delayed for single parents to disabled folks is one too many.
mhm.
And what some of the things that we've seen, I feel like, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like, and I'm not, this is a if the shoe fits, wear it. So anybody out there getting offended, well, I guess I'm talking to you then. But I say in general, I feel like the American people and some of our institutions were used as chattel, as bait, saying, "Ha ha, see, your people are suffering pretty bad here. They're suffering worse than ours. So let's make a deal, shall we?" I felt like that was kind of what was going on here. Is that is that accurate,
I'd say in a sense, yeah, it's pretty accurate from
Mariel?
what I saw.
What do you think, Mariel?
I definitely I definitely do think that. But I also think that um how should I put it? It was not handled appropriately. or in the best way. I'm sure that I'm not alone in that assessment. There's sure thousands of people, and then they've gotten on social media saying the same, right? I definitely think that if a scalpel and a finer hand would have been taken, maybe at a little bit, um, how should I put it, not as drastic of a pace, right? Then maybe the effects wouldn't be as bad as it currently is. And maybe not as many people would have endured what they are currently enduring.
Well, well put again.
Very good.
And
Very well put.
Eddie, as you and I have talked about, and we'll have a press release that our respective offices issue as is appropriate here this holiday season. We have, of course, abundant good tidings to bring to you all on a number of levels. One of them, as we have previously discussed, is on a to be specified, again, hence that press release, to be specified level, though. Miss Mariel is joining us as an enterprise partner and vice versa. There's a lot that her newfound enterprise effect company, a lot that she has a vision for, and not just pertaining to disaster response, but as you can imagine, Eddie, I'm sure from this brief time, you can tell there's a lot, the width and breadth of the mind on the line with us goes beyond what we can really cover here in this 35, 40 minutes. So I don't want to do her injustice by saying, yep, that's it. But she is joining us as an enterprise partner, but I'll leave. I got to bring it up because it happened, and of course we're delighted to be involved on this level. But she's got a lot that she wants to accomplish as well. I mean, all three of us are very ambitious people, but Mod State in particular, I think, is definitely to our benefit that Mariel sees something in us, and I certainly think that Eddie's company, he'd have to tell you more about Overwatch. So there's a lot to unpack here, but
Definitely.
The fact is we all see the virtues in improving societal discussion in our society. Regardless of background, we could all see the virtue, the benefit of, hey, look, that's fine. We can disagree. I mean, Mariel and I have disagreed like cats and dogs before. That's fine. But hey, let's not go shooting each other over it.
Yes.
Like let's and I'm not making light of it by any means. Like let's maybe woosah here. Let's take a step back, folks, and say, hey, that in and of itself, that debate is the beauty of this country, that we're allowed to do that. We don't chop people's arms off because they're from the wrong tribe.
Right.
And I think folks are quick to go, well, look, we failed at X, Y, and Z. Just because, I've said it before and I'll say it again, just because we have failed to live up to the full measure of our ideals doesn't mean that we throw the baby out with the bathwater and cease to try, right?
Exactly.
Correct. There's always room to grow. There's always room to improve. It doesn't necessarily mean you throw the whole thing away.
Right.
I mean,
have success without failure either, so there's always that. There's always that too.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, the 30th of April will be 10 years for Mod State as an editorial publication. And September of next year will make it 9 years as the multimedia aspects of this. Eddie, you and I met, some folks might call it random. I don't think so. But
I'd say it's fate.
We happened to meet, Mariel. I think I've told you this, I don't know, but I was in between. I had stopped studying for the night. I was just kind of burnt out for the day. I was taking I think it was public finance and public policy class at the time, sport at Penn State. And I got on Xbox Live and was like, all right, I'm going to sling a few games of Halo. Just, I kid you not. And he and his buddy Dan, we just randomly got matched together, right? I'm cutting through a lot of fat here. And I don't know how, but at the end of one of the games, we were just jawing about, what are you doing and whatnot. And I said something about a podcast, and he was like, man, I'm an audio engineer. I was like, you don't say. And so, because Eddie's not just some guy that knows how to run the boards, he's got a 4-year degree in this. And so I was like, hey, well, if you know how to do that, and I'm trying to start that, why don't we party up and talk about it some more?
Yeah, it was
And so,
it was
and he
great.
was like, let's do.
Right.
And so I kid you not. So that's where, and I don't say that to make it seem trite, but what we've got here, and then I meet Mariel in 2021,
Mm.
August, September 2021
Yeah. End of August, beginning of September.
in
Yeah.
Dallas. And so we could go on, we don't have the time, but there's so many names and so many pieces of what we're doing that have slowly but surely come together. I don't think it's coincidence. Uh,
No,
but it's very
it's all
encouraging.
aligned.
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
encouraged. I don't know. I'm not going to speak for the two of y'all. I know we gotta wrap up, but I want to hear from. I want y'all to tell people like, are you encouraged? Do you feel like we're all headed in the right direction, relatively speaking?
I mean, yes, without a doubt. Um, the time that I met you, I didn't really know where my career was going to go, and I really wanted a foot in the door with seeing how podcast and these platforms of this stuff was really starting to take off, and I felt that this was the right opportunity that came along, and we've nurtured it for so long, and now it's because it's that seed that we planted is now bloomed this beautiful tree, and we just got to keep growing it, and I think it's gonna turn into something
Yeah.
fantastic. I'm very excited, so very, very
Yeah.
excited.
I'm kind of in a similar boat. I met Jack at the very beginning of my career. Did not expect to really, I hate to say, meeting anybody of consequence there. I was just starting out, and um, you know, the more that we got to know each other and talk and things of that nature, the more that we just kind of saw the potential in the bigger picture, right? And he saw the burning desire in me to help others in their greatest time of need. That has also always been my passion, and that is one of the reasons why I, believe it or not, got into this industry, and is the reason why I've been creating Effect Co, and is the reason why I'm here to this day. And I really believe in Mod State because we have a lot of the same mindset: is giving a voice to the people, as well as helping others in their greatest time of need, and helping. And the best way to help them is to provide them an outlet for a voice.
Yes.
You know, I, we can stand here all day and debate and guess what people want and listen to them, but at the end of the day, it is more powerful to hear from them. And so by, us creating the companies that we're doing and heading in this direction and giving them that outlet, it's providing them something that is um, I don't want to call it a beast, but it a incredibly powerful component that has been missing in the hands of the people for an incredibly long time, and too long. Other than just willy nilly at random on social media, because when you can actually gather one platform to create that voice and have a multitude of voices and opinions that are respected, right? Which is very hard to find, unfortunately, nowadays, and mediated in the proper way so that everybody can feel heard and respected. That is something that is undeniably powerful, and something that was desperately needed, and here we are, and I'm just glad to be included and be a part of it.
Awesome.
I'm I'm thrilled. Number one, that you came on for this. You brought something to mind though. 112 years ago, same year as, if I'm not mistaken, same year that the Federal Reserve was created, women's suffrage occurred. I believe it was 1913. I
Somewhere
think.
around then, I can look up the
Um,
specific date if you want me to. You know how I am.
well,
I don't stick my foot in my mouth.
no, I know. No,
Exactly.
the greater point is though that over a century later, and I'm a classical feminist, you know this. Uh,
Mhm.
as a classical feminist, I think it's one thing too that has stood out to me amidst this polarized period is there's a lot of vitriol still surrounding when a woman wants to speak her mind that's not in line with somebody's party line. And it's fascinating to me because I see it on both sides of our duopoly. Like few things infuriate some of the far leftists that I know any more than a bright college educated woman that decides to be a homemaker. That like just causes an aneurysm. over there. And then on
Yeah.
the other hand, you've got, and I hear it, it's women that do this. And on the other hand, you've got hard right women who think that, if you've got a career and you're out in the field, you're going to hell. It's like, can we please, like, ever heard of overkill much? But
Yeah.
re- regardless of which route you want to go, I want to hammer home again. This is also a place where I think our classical feminist impulse can be, encouraged here. I appreciate you, obviously, on a number of levels for joining us. But I hope that you feel like, and I know our relationship, you would be honest with me. But
Yes.
I hope that you feel encouraged to, if you want to write something, if you want to post a half page, you need to get something off your chest, or hell, if you want to come back, I hope you come back on here again, and you want to talk about something. I hope you're welcome here, and I hope some of our fellow classical feminists will join us here and have that voice, regardless of what part of the political spectrum. I know I've articulated this in a clumsy fashion, but I think you can see what I'm getting at, in that I may not be the man they want to see bring this message, but nonetheless, that's one of the reasons I put on a uniform, was for people like my mother, my sisters, and my nieces. And one of my best friends from childhood growing up is a woman. And I I don't know if any of that diatribe makes any sense, but long story short, I'm very glad you're here and you joined us.
Yeah. Well, I'm very glad to be here. And I hate to say this, but I think um, the term feminist, it's gotten to the point where it has been used so much that a lot of people, unfortunately, are turned off by it. Sadly enough, it either infuriates some or it makes other people just not want to even listen anymore. So I look at it more of the perspective of that you're giving a voice to everybody, including women. It's not about gender. It's not about anything else. It's all about, do you understand? Do you have an actual message? Can you coherently think logically for yourself? It's getting people to understand their message, understand what is going on in the world and in our society, and allowing them to then thoroughly vocalize that in a safe way and not judgmental, right? And I definitely feel that here, and I'm like I said, I'm definitely glad to be a part of it.
Thank you. We really, really,
Eddie,
really appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts, Eddie?
I'd say thank you. That's exactly. And I want to leave you with this thought that, like, our job necessarily isn't voicing our own opinion. It's helping other
Yeah,
people understand other people is really what we're trying to help.
exactly.
We're trying to help people do. And I don't really care if people don't necessarily understand what I do. I'm just trying to help bring the message to everyone. And that's really,
Awareness. Yeah.
um, so thank you. I really appreciate you being here and willing to join our team and really further the voice for everyone. It's gonna be really
Yeah.
great.
And yeah. So like I said, I mean, I know I sound like a broken record by now, but I really do appreciate it. In fact, I feel that that is one of the reasons why I've actually come so far, why I even have the respect of Jack, and we've actually become friends, is because he can tell you how many times I have purposefully stuck out my neck to make sure that other people's voices were heard. That's why I'm so successful in my career and everything that I do, even in emergency management and catastrophe management, was because I allowed other people to tell their stories, and all I was a magnifier for that, right? Because not enough people are heard, and it's amazing what can happen when you actually stop and listen and respect somebody's story and take it for heart and not take it for granted.
Definitely.
Exactly. Here, here. We want to be a voice, obviously. Uh, Anyone, we don't do the ad hominem, we don't do personal attacks, and we'll discuss foreign policy, but we don't discuss encourage violence. But outside of
Right.
that, I hope everyone understands that this is a platform for you. And I hope that Mariel's joining us today will not only bring about her joining us again, but will also encourage others. It's been a few dozen episodes since we've had a guest. And so I hope this serves as a positive example to folks that, hey, no, come on. And we want you to speak. And I hope this sets a good example. I know we got to wrap up, but I appreciate again, Mariel, you joining us, and Eddie, thank you as always for putting up with me, and to the folks out there, to America and her republic and her beautiful people. Until next time, au revoir.
Till next time, guys.
Bye.